Welcome to our channel. When we think about the history of humanity, familiar pages of the Bible often come to mind, filled with prophets and holy battles. Yet there exists an ancient text, long forgotten by the passage of time, which reveals secrets far beyond these well-known legends. It is the story of the Nephilim, giant beings born from the forbidden union between angels and humans. This book is not just a collection of moral lessons or spiritual guidance. It transports us into a dramatic world where divine forces clash with giant beings. These giants, led by figures like Hoya and Ma, are formidable enemies, neither wholly evil nor saintly. Their actions, from depleting resources to cannibalism, plunge their world into chaos and destruction. This narrative, preserved in various forms such as the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Manichean manuscripts, offers a fresh perspective on complex moral dilemmas. However, it is notable that the book about the giants has been excluded from mainstream knowledge, sinking into obscurity within the realms of esoteric teaching. Why was this book forgotten, and what secrets does it hold? The story begins in 1947, when a Bedouin shepherd accidentally discovered a hidden cave in a remote desert. There, he found fragments of an ancient Jewish text, the Book of Giants, among the Dead Sea Scrolls at Qumran. These fragments, dating back to the 2nd or 3rd century BCE, contain stories long forgotten by history. What truths await us within these ancient lines? The Dead Sea Scrolls, dating back thousands of years, are invaluable relics, preserving critical pieces of history. In the arid land of Qumran, a special library was gradually unearthed over a decade, revealing thousands of fragments from 11 secret caves. Among this treasure were most of the Old Testament books, except for the Book of Esther, offering a unique insight into the biblical text tradition. Beyond the canonical texts, the caves also contain more intriguing secret revelations that challenge conventional perceptions of history and faith. Manuscripts like the Community Rule and the War Scroll have shed light on the beliefs, rituals, and principles of a religious community, possibly the Essenes. In this rich tapestry of texts, one manuscript stands out, a story not widely explored but full of power. This story, shrouded in the veil of time, spans our understanding of the spiritual experiences of ancient people, offering a fresh perspective and revealing the unique viewpoints of those who lived it. Imagine a world where the boundaries between the divine and human become blurred, where giants walk among men, witnessing an era of chaos and despair. This is the world described in the Book of Giants. Why did these giants appear, you may wonder? These beings were born from the forbidden union between fallen angels and earthly women, embodying a powerful combination, divine and human attribute. Endowed with extraordinary strength and gigantic size, they brought a period of chaos and destruction upon the earth. What makes this book particularly special are the stories of ultimate corruption it contains, from the depletion of resources, acts of cannibalism, all recounted with an intensity that challenges the imagination. Prophetic dreams about their inevitable fate, leading to the Great Flood, add layers of mystery and suspense to this gripping tale. While the Bible briefly mentions the presence of giants on earth in Genesis 6:4, the Book of Giants opens a door to that forgotten world, where divinity and humanity intertwine in a tragic dance of destruction and redemption. The epic story unfolds both before and after the Great Flood, with significant characters emerging at its heart, most notably Enoch. His piety made him a bridge between the divine world and the giants. Among these giants, names like Hoya, Ha, and Mawe come alive, their fates intertwined with impending divine retribution. Through fragmented yet evocative prose, the Book of Giants casts a shadow over familiar biblical stories, hinting at a world where myth and history merge into a compelling tapestry of events. However, despite its profound content and significant meaning, the Book of Giants was excluded from the biblical canon. Why was this text left out? The answer lies in history and the decisions of religious leaders in the early centuries of Christianity and Judaism. These leaders sought to establish a common canon, shaping the core beliefs and practices of their faith. The criteria for inclusion were strict, and many works, like the Book of Giants, were excluded and gradually fell into oblivion. The exclusion of this book from the biblical canon was due to stringent standards set by religious authorities. For example, A text had to be attributed to an apostle or someone closely related to an apostle, widely accepted by the Christian community, and contained teachings that reflected high moral and spiritual values. Notably, this text was integrated into the Manichean tradition, religion founded by Mani, who grew up in southern Mesopotamia in a Jewish Christian sect known as the Elkasites. Mani, also known by his religious title, is possibly the author of one version of the Book of Giants. His visions, which began at the age of 12, led him on a path that resulted in his expulsion from his original sect and the subsequent founding of his own religion. In Mani's version, we see a story similar to that found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, adding to the complexity and mystery of this ancient tale. The Book of Giants, written in an ancient Aramaic dialect known as Syriac, opens a world where demons, after being banished from heaven, descended to earth to sow chaos and destruction. In this battle between heaven and earth, Archangels Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel lead great battles to restore balance between light and darkness. This epic confrontation between divine forces and demons exposes the eternal conflicts lying deep within human history. Interestingly, some stories in the Book of Giants resonate with the pages of the Bible. For instance, the extended story of the Nephilim in Genesis 6 provides a more detailed view of these giant beings, describing them with height and strength beyond human imagination. These mentions, along with other hints in the Bible, suggest that ancient Jewish cultures highly valued stories about these hybrid beings, helping to reinforce the themes and content of the Book of Giants. As the story develops, the consequences of the actions of these divine and demonic beings are shown through a catastrophic flood meant to cleanse the earth, marking a turning point in human history and a reminder of the powerful cosmic conflicts interwoven into the fabric of existence. According to the Book of Giants, these beings had gigantic stature and profound knowledge. However, their impact on Earth was immensely destructive. Instead of guiding humanity toward enlightenment, they taught forbidden arts and sciences, causing chaos and moral decline in society. The story tells of two giants, Hoya and Ha, who were haunted by troubling dreams that seemed to foretell a catastrophic judgment. Enoch, a biblical figure renowned for his wisdom and revelations about the end times, interpreted these dreams and confirmed that a great flood was imminent to destroy the giants and cleanse the earth. So what emerges from the Book of Giants? In the pre-flood era, the Almighty God decided to send 200 of his angels, known as Watchers, to earth, tasked with observing humanity from afar, guiding but not directly interfering in human affairs. The leader of these divine beings was Semjaza, who was entrusted by God with overseeing the angelic council, ensuring that divine intentions were maintained and heavenly ethics were not violated. Initially, this task seemed simple and clear. The Watchers only needed to observe and guide humanity from a distance. For a time, they performed their role admirably, keeping a distance between themselves and the earthly world. However, over time, the beauty of mortal women began to attract the Watchers' attention. What began as innocent admiration gradually turned into strong desire and caused turmoil. Even Semjaza, who was previously steadfast in his devotion, was drawn into this desire, departing from the divine path and succumbing to temptation. As the Nephilim, offspring of the union between the Watchers and humans, increased in number, their presence became a serious threat. Their terrifying height and supernatural strength made them formidable and respected beings, but also a danger to the fragile existence of humans. They ravaged the Earth's resources mercilessly, leaving behind devastation and despair. The once vibrant and prosperous world became a battlefield filled with destruction and suffering. Ancient heavenly teachings were twisted and misused, fueling the flames of chaos and anarchy. Humanity was caught in a whirlwind of violence and despair, unable to stop the advance of these monstrous beings. Faced with such catastrophe, divine wrath did not delay. The Almighty God, witnessing the indulgence and corruption that had polluted his creation, decided to intervene. The ultimate judgment approached, heralded by thunder and powerful storms. Catastrophic flood was imminent, aimed at cleansing the earth of the evil that had taken root. As time passed, while the giants greedily ravaged every sign of wildlife, humans became their only remaining prey. The giants with fierce eyes and insatiable hunger hunted humans with unspeakable brutality. There was no place for mercy in their world, filled with despair and desolation. But even the giants' unending hunger had limits. As humans became scarce and cities and villages were destroyed, the giants sank into despair. It was then, driven by anger and survival instinct, the giants began to turn to unimaginable acts, cannibalism, to satisfy their insatiable hunger. In a short time, human civilizations that once thrived with life and activity became ghostly ruins of what they once were. Cities turned to rubble, farmlands became barren, and echoes of the past reverberated in every abandoned corner. However, even in this desolation, glimmers of hope and change began to appear. Some giants started gathering into tribes, forming communities to protect themselves from extinction, while others wandered the barren lands in search of food, feeling helpless and lost. Their steps echoed across the vast wilderness, like a warning bell of the approaching catastrophe. The giants, in their gigantic stature and power, began to realize consequences of their actions. Their premonitions, though vague and fleeting, foretold a catastrophic end. In the midst of their unquenchable hunger and endless battles, a dark shadow loomed over their existence. The earth shook beneath their feet, and the sky seemed to grow darker with each passing day. They felt an inevitable judgment approaching, something greater than anything they had ever faced before. Enoch, figure revered by both mortals and giants for his wisdom and prophetic abilities, appeared as a beacon of hope in this time of darkness. His revelations, often given in the form of vivid dreams or visions, foretold the approaching flood and the complete destruction of the giants. However, this was not just an act of divine punishment, but also a chance for redemption. Enoch's words, though harsh and unyielding, offered a glimmer of hope, reminding the giants of the path they had strayed from and the possibility of returning to the light. In the last moments before the flood, the giants were faced with a choice: continue down the path of destruction and despair, or seek redemption and salvation through repentance. Some giants, despite their great strength and pride, chose the latter, hoping that even in their darkest hour, they could find forgiveness and peace. These giants turned to Enoch, seeking his guidance and wisdom, hoping to find a way to avoid their doomed fate. However, for many, it was too late. The flood, a force of nature beyond anything the giants had ever encountered, swept across the earth with a ferocity unmatched in human history. The giants, with all their might and power, were powerless against this divine force. The waters rose higher and higher, swallowing entire cities, mountains, and valleys. The giants, once the rulers of the earth, were no more. Their legacy, however, lived on in the myths and legends, passed down through generations. The story of the Book of Giants, though shrouded in mystery and obscured by time, remains a powerful testament to the eternal struggle between good and evil, light and darkness. It serves as a reminder of the consequences of straying from the divine path and the importance of redemption and forgiveness in the face of inevitable judgment. This ancient text, though excluded from the biblical canon, offers a unique perspective on the spiritual experiences of our ancestors, providing insight into the complex moral dilemmas they faced and the cosmic battles that shaped the world we live in today. In a distant time, God dwelled in a formless world shrouded in darkness. He hovered over the imperial waters, and in a sublime moment, God spoke the words that echo eternally, "Let there be light." And so it was. Light emerged, and God saw that it was good. He separated light from darkness, revealing his divine power. However, a fundamental theological question persists. Where did God come from? When heaven and earth were nothing more than a promise, when darkness reigned over a shapeless void, God already existed. He majestically dwelt alone in his divine greatness. He called light out of darkness, brought order out of chaos, and created a cosmos out of confusion. But the incessant question remained, where did God come from? Some assert that God created the earth 6,000 years ago in just 6 days. However, to be philosophically consistent and honest, the question arises, where did God come from? Furthermore, once we understand the origin of God, how can we comprehend the influence of a spiritual force on a material universe? If it is believed that God created the universe, logic leads us to question who created God. And so begins the endless cycle of inquiries. Who created God? And who created the God who created God? The quest for truth extends to infinity, challenging our minds and leading us to question the depths of the unknown. Let's delve deeper into the question, who created God? When we ask this question, we immediately encounter the idea of a created God, which is intriguing. This inquiry in itself illustrates a crucial point. Belief in God as the creator is fundamental to our understanding. However, this question is intriguing because it leads us to consider a more plausible explanation: the impossibility of something arising from nothing. If we agree that it is not possible to create something from an absolute void, we arrive at a powerful conclusion. There must be something eternal, always existing, for otherwise we would be trapped in eternal emptiness. Therefore, all of us, in some way, are forced to believe that something has always existed. This is the only logical explanation. For if we accept that nothing can arise from nothing, then both you and I, who are here discussing, are something, and that something must have existed forever. The idea of something eternal, ever-present, is the key to understanding the enigma of creation. Here is the question. Everything we know about the physical world leads us to doubt that something can exist eternally. Especially since the 1930s, when the Big Bang Theory was widely accepted, our understanding of the universe has changed drastically. This theory suggests that our current universe is just a temporal manifestation, a single iteration in an infinite series. Consider the evidence. The universe is constantly changing, energy is gradually being consumed, and the well-established second law of thermodynamics teaches us that energy depletes over time. Stars are losing their energy, and the expansion of the universe seems to be accelerating, pushing its boundaries beyond our comprehension. All of this leads us to conclude that the physical world as we know it is not a viable candidate for something that has existed eternally. Now, the big question is, whatever has existed eternally must be entirely different from what we see today. The primordial cause, the source of everything, must be something beyond our current understanding. And so, we are challenged to explore the true nature of this mystery, transcends our physical world. I recognize that the idea of something existing eternally may seem challenging, but I would like to present a different perspective. Consider that everything we perceive as contingent reality, meaning things that could be otherwise, are just fleeting manifestations. Even seemingly solid objects like this chair in front of you were once merely possibilities on the brink of non-being. They are not permanent. They vanish over time. The truth is that all these things cannot explain themselves. They are interconnected, like domino pieces in a chain of interdependent contingency. At some point, we must assume that there is something fundamental, something entirely different from what we are trying to explain. When it comes to God, the central claim of Christian, Jewish, and Islamic traditions is that God is eternal. Therefore, the question about the origin of God does not apply to him by definition. The only way to argue against this is to assume that everything belongs to the category of created. But that simply puts us back to square one. The ancient Greeks explored this question, and that's why the Gospel of John begins with the words, "In the beginning was the Word." This statement invites us to consider that all things have their origin in something eternal and transcendental, something beyond our understanding, something that already existed before everything. Ancient Greeks were interested in the question of two categories: what is created and what already exists. Ultimately, this question boils down to whether there is something or someone who never came into existence. Christians claim that this being is God, and this assertion is central to their faith. The question of who created God may seem legitimate to some, but I argue that it is not. Now, for those who believe that the universe created everything, I want to pose a question. Who created the creator of the universe? This question often leaves people perplexed, and I have asked it to many scientists myself. I remember one occasion when I was discussing with about 1,000 scientists, and a physicist approached me. He said, "It's interesting, all that you talk about God, but you're a Christian, and as a Christian you believe in the Trinity, that Jesus was God and man. That's absurd. Can you explain that to me?" I replied, "Of course I can, but first let me ask you a question. What is consciousness?" He pondered for a moment and admitted he didn't know. So I asked, "What is energy?" He replied that as a physicist, he could measure it but didn't know what it was. I continued, "Well, my question isn't about that. My question is, do you believe in consciousness?" He said yes. "And do you believe in energy?" Again, he answered affirmatively. I then said, "You believe in these two things, but you've admitted that you don't know what they are. So you're an intellectual. Don't worry about it." He replied, "Please don't call me that." And I concluded, "That's exactly what you were about to do with me 5 minutes ago. If you don't know what energy is, don't be surprised if energy, light, gravity, and consciousness are mysteries. Don't be surprised if all these mysteries are contained in God." The question of who created God in reality is not as complex as it may seem. When we refer to God as an eternal and timeless being, the answer becomes clear. As Keith Ward argues in his book, God, Chance, and Necessity, if someone were to ask what caused God, the answer would be simple. Nothing could have brought into existence a reality that completely transcends space and time, that is self-existent. Understanding this idea is to understand that God is beyond the categories of beginning and end. Anything that begins to exist needs a cause, cannot arise from nothing. However, something that is eternal and timeless does not fit into this initial premise. It does not need a cause. Even atheists like Daniel Dennett acknowledge that if eternal truths exist, such as numbers or mathematical objects, they do not need a cause because they never come into existence. The concept of God is precisely the concept of an eternal and self-existent being, primal necessity. Therefore, the answer is simple. God has no cause because he is self-existent. Our definition of God is the uncreated creator of the universe who transcends all limitations of time and space. The question of who created the uncreated creator is like asking about the sound of silence or what emptiness does. What I am trying to illustrate is that there is a definition of silence that prevents us from asking such a question. Similarly, when we question who created the uncreated creator of the universe, we are following a line of reasoning that does not apply to him. This brings us to an important point. Christians base their beliefs on a God who was not created, while atheists often provide different answers. As a former atheist, I also used to believe in an uncreated creator, although my understanding was different. He said, "It's interesting, all that you talk about God, but you're a Christian, and as a Christian, you believe in the Trinity, that Jesus was God and man. That's absurd. Can you explain that to me?" I replied, "Of course I can, but first let me ask you a question. What is consciousness?" He pondered for a moment and admitted he didn't know. So I asked, "What is energy?" He replied that as a physicist, he could measure it but didn't know what it was. I continued, "Well, my question isn't about that. My question is, do you believe in consciousness?" He said yes. "And do you believe in energy?" Again, he answered affirmatively. I then said, "You believe in these two things, but you've admitted that you don't know what they are. So you're an intellectual. Don't worry about it." He replied, "Please don't call me that." And I concluded, "That's exactly what you were about to do with me 5 minutes ago. If you don't know what energy is, don't be surprised if energy, light, gravity, and consciousness are mysteries. Don't be surprised if all these mysteries are contained in God." The question of who created God in reality is not as complex as it may seem. When we refer to God as an eternal and timeless being, the answer becomes clear. As Keith Ward argues in his book, God, Chance, and Necessity, if someone were to ask what caused God, the answer would be simple. Nothing could have brought into existence a reality that completely transcends space and time, that is self-existent. Understanding this idea is to understand that God is beyond the categories of beginning and end. Anything that begins to exist needs a cause, cannot arise from nothing. However, something that is eternal and timeless does not fit into this initial premise. It does not need a cause. Even atheists like Daniel Dennett acknowledge that if eternal truths exist, such as numbers or mathematical objects, they do not need a cause because they never come into existence. The concept of God is precisely the concept of an eternal and self-existent being, primal necessity. Therefore, the answer is simple. God has no cause because he is self-existent. Our definition of God is the uncreated creator of the universe who transcends all limitations of time and space. The question of who created the uncreated creator is like asking about the sound of silence or what emptiness does. What I am trying to illustrate is that there is a definition of silence that prevents us from asking such a question. Similarly, when we question who created the uncreated creator of the universe, we are following a line of reasoning that does not apply to him. This brings us to an important point. Christians base their beliefs on a God who was not created, while atheists often provide different answers. As a former atheist, I also used to believe in an uncreated creator, although my understanding was different. Yet as humanity ponders the magnificence of creation, a fundamental question lingers. Where did God come from? This question has puzzled theologians, philosophers, and scientists for millennia. In a world where everything has a beginning and an end, the concept of an eternal, uncreated being challenges our understanding of existence. To unravel this mystery, we must journey back to the dawn of time, to the moment when God decided to bring forth the universe from the depths of nothing. Before the universe was born, before the stars ignited and the planets formed, God existed in a realm beyond human comprehension. He was not bound by the constraints of time and space. He was the source of all that would ever be. In his infinite wisdom, he envisioned a cosmos teeming with life, beauty, and complexity. And so he spoke the universe into existence, setting in motion the grand narrative of creation. In those first moments, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was formless and empty, a canvas waiting to be filled with the wonders of his design. God separated the waters, creating the sky above and the seas below. He brought forth dry land, covered it with lush vegetation, and set the sun, moon, and stars in the heavens to govern the passage of time. Each act of creation was a testament to his boundless power and divine artistry. As the universe took shape, God created life. From the depths of the seas, he called forth creatures of every kind, from the smallest fish to the mighty leviathans. He filled the skies with birds, their psalms a symphony of praise to their creator. On the land, he brought forth animals, from the tiniest insects to the majestic beasts that roamed the earth. Each creature was a masterpiece, intricately designed and perfectly suited to its environment. But God's greatest creation was yet to come. In a final act of divine creativity, he formed man from the dust of the earth and breathed into him the breath of life. Man became a living being, created in the image of God, endowed with intellect, emotion, and free will. God placed man in the Garden of Eden, a paradise filled with every good thing. In this garden, man walked with God, enjoying perfect communion with his Creator. Yet the story of creation is not just about the beginning of the universe. It is also about the relationship between God and his creation. As man looked upon the wonders of the world and marveled at the beauty and complexity of life, he saw the order and harmony of the natural world, the cycles of day and night, the changing seasons, and the intricate web of life that sustained all living things. Man recognized the hand of God in all that he saw, and he worshipped his Creator with awe and reverence. But even as man celebrated the glory of creation, he could not escape the question, where did God come from? This question is not merely a philosophical curiosity. It touches the very core of human existence. To understand the origin of God is to understand the nature of reality itself. It is to grasp the fundamental truth that underlies all of creation, that there is a source, an eternal, unchanging reality from which everything else derives its existence. In the ancient world, different cultures sought to answer this question in various ways. Some believed in a pantheon of gods, each with its own domain and power. Others envisioned a primordial chaos from which the cosmos emerged. But the Judeo-Christian tradition offers a unique perspective. That God is eternal, uncreated, and self-existent. He is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. He is the source of all being, foundation of reality itself. The concept of an eternal God challenges our finite understanding of existence. In our experience, everything has a cause. Nothing comes from nothing. But God transcends this causal chain. He is not a part of the created order. He is the creator of all things. He exists outside of time and space, beyond the limits of human comprehension. To ask where God came from is to misunderstand the nature of his existence. God is not a being among beings. He is being itself, the ground of all reality. As humanity advances in knowledge and understanding, we continue to grapple with the mysteries of the universe. Science has uncovered the vastness of space, the intricacies of life, and the fundamental forces that govern the cosmos. Yet even as we probe the depths of reality, we encounter questions that science alone cannot answer. The origin of the universe, the nature of consciousness, the meaning of existence. These are questions that point beyond the material world to the transcendent reality of God. In our quest for truth, we must recognize the limits of our understanding. We must acknowledge that there are mysteries that lie beyond the reach of human reason. The question of God's origin is one such mystery. It invites us to contemplate the infinite, to stand in awe of the divine, and to recognize our place in the grand narrative of creation. It challenges us to see the world not merely as a collection of physical phenomena, but as a reflection of the divine purpose and love. As we reflect on the story of creation, we are reminded of the profound truth that underlies all of existence, that we are not alone in the universe. We are part of a grand design, a masterpiece crafted by a loving and wise creator. Our lives have meaning and purpose, grounded in the eternal reality of God. And even as we wrestle with the mysteries of existence, we can find peace in the knowledge that we are held in the hands of the one who brought forth light from darkness, order from chaos, and life from the dust of the earth. In the end, the question of where God came from may remain unanswered, a mystery that transcends human understanding. But in this mystery lies the beauty of faith, the recognition that there is a reality beyond our comprehension, a divine